Let me start off by asking you all a question. What does higher education mean to you? I'm going to assume that most of us in this room have some experience with the topic, so I want each of you to really take a moment and consider this question again. What is there to gain from going to college? What thoughts popped into your head just now? Did you see visions of fortune and success? Or did you think back to all those awkward discussions at the dinner table with family and friends asking you questions like, what was it that you were studying again? Or will that make any money? Well, for me, the point of going to college wasn't something I really began considering until my junior year of high school. Now let me tell you, the transition from sophomore to junior year felt like a complete culture shock. Soon, those side conversations in classrooms were no longer about what you were having for lunch or what your plans were for the weekend. Instead, became about what colleges you were touring and programs you were researching. I felt really behind at this stage in my life, like I had missed an important memo or something. Though I was a driven student who loved learning, and I always figured I'd go to college at some point, I realized that I never had that same excitement that my friends had when they talked about their dream schools and future careers. This sense of alienation felt earth-shattering to me at the time, but I can now express how grateful I am for it, because it sparked a curiosity that I hold within me to this day, which is to uncover the true purpose of higher education. Still, from that time in high school, even up until my freshman year of college, I was subscribing to the same rhetoric I'm sure most of us have heard when we talk about higher education. How if you wanted a decent paying job, you went to college. If you wanted career stability, you went to college. It seemed that in order to be successful in life, you had to go to college. But not going to college doesn't automatically ruin your chances of success. My mom is the person who helped me realize this. For some context, she grew up in a small village in Romania where young girls weren't really encouraged to pursue higher education at the time. So she didn't have the opportunity to go to college right after high school. Instead, she began working as a waitress at 17 and married my dad a few years later. Together, they left everything behind to start a new life for their growing family in the US. While my dad worked, my mom decided to stay home to raise my sister and me, until we were both old enough and she eventually pursued a degree of her own. Growing up, I always felt that she put her life on hold for us, but she'd never say the same. To her, raising two young women who now attend college in the US is her greatest success in life. So clearly, one can lead a successful life without higher education. But none of this eliminates the fact that people still go to college to have greater opportunities for success. I mean, my parents would have never been able to come to the US in the first place were it not for my dad's engineering degree. But as we enter a new era, one that values the importance of social responsibility, it's become apparent that the role of higher education is evolving. While college is still an institution that can help people advance professionally, it's also become a place that fosters active citizenship. Or in other words, the desire to care about one's community. Across the country, we're seeing more and more colleges make it their mission to turn students into socially aware and compassionate citizens. But what's the reason behind this development? Well, the answer is relatively simple when you think about it. The purpose of higher education is changing because the world itself is changing. We're constantly making advancements and being confronted by complex issues along the way. So it's only logical that colleges are beginning to take steps to prepare their students for such a chaotic world. Our reality is no longer the same reality of those who implemented these institutions centuries ago. But campus activism isn't anything new either. I mean, throughout history, we've seen college students and young people in general lead many social movements, from protesting the US's involvement in the Vietnam War to advocating for stronger diversity and inclusion efforts. College students have been at the front lines when confronting social ills. Nevertheless, it seems like college administrations are starting to officially recognize this ongoing development, and the effects are clear. In fact, many college mission statements mention something along the lines of fostering active citizenship. Let's look at some examples. For instance, Princeton University mentions in its mission statement that it will advance its initiatives with a pervasive commitment to serve the nation and the world. Meanwhile, the University of Michigan's mission statement adopts the phrase, developing leaders and citizens who will challenge the present and enrich the future. And here at Central Michigan University, we promise to prepare students for productive careers, meaningful lives, and responsible citizenship in a global society. Now, it's one thing to say that you're working towards a better world, but it's another to actually do it. So, what are colleges really doing to achieve this ambitious goal? Well, for one, we're seeing a number of institutions beginning to emphasize the importance of diversity, inclusion, and equity into their programming. For example, the University of Texas at Austin's Neighborhood Longhorn program now partners with local elementary and middle schools who have a high percentage of low-income students to improve their academic performance. Additionally, we're seeing institutions like the Loyola University of New Orleans that now offer specific services, such as mental health resources, to staff and students of color. But how are such efforts able to arise in higher education in the first place? Answering this question requires a deeper look into the structure of our nation's higher education system. One critical component of higher education is its fostering of community engagement. Engagement can be seen in many diverse forms in today's university settings. It's offered in classroom discussions, campus organizations, and other opportunities in which students are encouraged to participate in during their college experience. The major avenue in which I've been able to engage with my community has been through my work as a sustainability coordinator for Central Sustainability. This position has allowed me to work alongside fellow students, faculty, and external partners, all into an effort to institutionalize sustainability at CMU and better our campus community. This role has allowed me to positively impact my communities in ways that I never could have imagined before coming to college. Higher education also encourages students to challenge their current understandings of the world, as this kind of thinking is essential when confronting wicked problems. What do I mean when I say wicked problems? Well, in 1973, we have these design theorists, Horace Whittle and Melvin Weber, who coined the term wicked problems to draw attention to the complexities that often come up when dealing with social policies. As a result, wicked problems can be seen as issues that are difficult or almost impossible to solve because of incomplete, contradictory, and changing conditions. Classic examples of wicked problems can be many of the systemic issues that we face today, such as hyperpartisanship, unequal access to healthcare and education, environmental injustice, the list can go on. Consequently, many colleges are beginning to recognize that in order to confront these wicked problems, it requires the ability to problem solve while taking into account multiple perspectives and experiences. But there's still one key question left to answer. To sum up, before I get into that part, I want to just emphasize that community engagement and challenging one's personal beliefs are essential components in fostering active citizenship, as these empower students with the skills to improve their current communities and the ones that they'll have later on. Now let's go back to that question that I was beginning to have. What's the point? What do colleges, and students for that matter, gain from caring about social issues? Is this just another way to save face in today's increasingly politicized environment? Or are we actually trying to strive for a better world? The optimist in me would like to side with the latter. However, I'm not saying that everything's perfect. In reality, there's still plenty of work left to do, as much of higher education still rests deeply in systems of oppression and inequalities that have to be eliminated. And when you toss in the cost of rising tuition and how much it's increasing in recent years, these obvious disparities are becoming too big to ignore. But despite these obstacles, what matters is that we're actively taking steps to do better. This shift from individualistic benefits to creating a more inclusive society reflects a growing desire among students and college administration alike to confront social ills and strive for a better world. And it's with great hope that this will continue as we encounter more complex issues in the near future. I want to leave you with one last image. Think of a mosaic. Each piece in the mosaic carries little meaning individually, but when combined together, they form a representation, a story of the world we know. I think we should view higher education in this way too. How all of its functions and little pieces come together to create one beautiful message, to do better than those who came before. Thank you.